Shortly after the double murders at Moselle, Stephen Smith's murder became front-page news, with national media picking up on the story. It was that story that led to the discovery of yet another strange death at Moselle, this one involving the Murdaugh's longtime housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield, whose fall on the property caused a traumatic brain injury that led to her death. The national media scrambled once again, and rumors began flying about the tragic death of Gloria Satterfield not being caused by what was originally reported. At the center of this death was Alex Murdaugh, who testified and lied about his involvement in the tragic incident at Moselle in an effort to hide a secret that would come out several years later. Welcome to Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite, Murdaugh, Episode 6, The Death of Gloria Satterfield. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite. I am your host, Jim Chapman. We are jumping right into this 6th episode in the Murdaugh series. And when we last left you, police were investigating that double murder at Moselle. In the national media, they have picked up that story on Stephen Smith. I told you all those details. And it was shortly after the national media, they started digging and they discovered another incident at the Moselle property that involved a death. And that was the Murdaugh's longtime housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. So I'm going to give you the details of that. And we're going to start with the 911 call that occurred on February 2nd of 2018. So I'm going to play that 911 call for you. And keep in mind, you're going to hear two voices. Those two voices you're going to hear making that call and talking to that 911 dispatcher are Maggie Murdaugh and Paul Murdaugh. So here's what that 911 call sounded like.
Come here. 911, where's your emergency? 4147 Moselle Road. Okay, can you give me the address one more time, make sure I got it right? Yes, 4147 Moselle Road. Okay, what's going on out there? I'm sorry? What's going on out there? My housekeeper has fallen and her head is bleeding. I cannot get her up. Okay, you said she's fallen. She's bleeding from the head? Yes. Okay. How old is she? I'm not sure, like 58 maybe. Do you know if she fell from standing or not? No. Where'd she fall from? She fell going up the steps, up the brick steps. Okay, so she outside or inside? Outside. Okay. How many steps is there? 8. Okay, is she on the ground or is she up near the top? She's on the ground. Is she conscious? No, not really. Is she awake at all? Yes. Okay. Is she just not, responding appropriately, but she is awake? Ma'am, she's not responding. Okay, I've already got them on the way. Me asking questions does not slow them down, ma'am. Knowing if she's conscious is one of the things that the medic needs to know if she's responding at all to you. No. Okay, so she's not responsive at all. Well, she's mumbling. Okay, so she is somewhat conscious. Is she breathing okay? Yes. Is she bleeding from anywhere? Yes, her head. Okay, are you guys able to control the bleeding? No. Can you put a clean rag or anything on it? Yeah, I got it.
Okay, is she bleeding from, like, her face, the back of the head?
I've got an ambulance coming. Sir, ma'am, what?
Where exactly is she bleeding from on her head?
I'm not sure. At the top of her head.
Okay.
What's it? Okay. Oh, gosh.
What happened?
She just fell back down. Can I get off this phone so I can go down there?
Can I have your name and phone number? Or are you able to bring the phone down by her?
What?
Are you on a cell phone where you can walk down there
I'm
and talk?
on a cell phone. No.
Okay, can you bring it with you so we can ask her some questions about what kind of pain she's having?
Hello?
Yeah, can you ask the patient what kind of pain she's having?
Ma'am, she can't talk.
Okay, do you know...
She's cracked her head and there's blood on the concrete and she's bleeding out of her left ear.
Okay, she's bleeding out of her ear?
And out of her head. She's cracked her skull.
Okay. All right, the other lady said that she had tried to stand up and fell down again?
No, I was holding her up. And
okay.
She told me to turn her loose and she was trying to use her arm, but then she fell back over.
Okay, do you guys know who she is?
Yes, she works for us.
Okay, do you know if she's ever had a stroke or anything before?
Ma'am, can you stop asking her to questions?
I already have them on the way. Me asking questions does not slow them down in any way. These are relevant questions that I have to ask for the ambulance. One of my questions is, has she ever had a stroke?
I don't believe she's ever had a stroke now that I know that.
Okay, is she able to talk to you guys at all, or is she unconscious now?
She's not unconscious. She's just mumbling.
Okay.
I believe she's maybe hit her head and maybe has a concussion or something.
Okay.
Maybe.
Do you know what her name is?
Gloria Satterfield.
You said Sanderfield?
Ma'am?
You said Sanderfield?
Satterfield.
Satterfield. Okay, what's the house look like out there?
It's offset off the road.
Okay.
It's a big house, got a wide driveway.
With a long driveway?
Yeah.
Is there a gate or anything down there that they're going to need to come through?
There's two big brick columns they'll have to come through.
Okay, but there's no, like, gate code or anything that they need?
No, ma'am. And tell them that they can look for a fellow on a 656 Ranger.
Okay.
Waiting on them in the road is green. You know what they probably know what the Ranger looks like.
Yeah. You said, like,
Fella's
green.
got on a black sweater,
okay.
a hat, and pants.
Okay. All right. If something changes with her, if she loses consciousness or anything like that, I need one of you guys to call me back right away, okay?
Okay, well, how long is it going to take? Because it's took us...
That I don't know. I've had them on the way since Maggie first called me. They were toned right away.
Okay.
All right, but I think they're coming... Hang on 1 minute. Let me check. They're coming from somewhere on Belt Highway in Ruffin, okay? That's where their station is.
Thank you.
All right, but like I said, if something changes, call me back.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, ambulances arrive. The police arrive, and sadly, Gloria Satterfield never regains consciousness, and she dies from her injuries 3 weeks later. This was on February 26th of 2018. So immediately following her death, Alex Murdaugh, actually at the funeral of Gloria Satterfield, he recommends to her two sons that they hire his friend and fellow attorney Corey Fleming to represent them in bringing a wrongful death claim against him. Now, of course, anytime you have insurance companies get involved, they have their own investigators they want to make sure there's no fraud taking place and that they have their bases covered, right? Because especially in a situation like this, they're going to have to pay out a lot of money. You had a death involved. It was reported as a slip and fall. So Alex, Maggie, and Paul Murdaugh, they all have to speak to insurance investigators and give a deposition on their sides of what happened. Now, Alex claimed Maggie called him after finding Gloria Satterfield in a pool of blood on their front steps. Now, Satterfield was allegedly at the family's home at that time to pick up a paycheck. Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, they also speak to the investigators and give a deposition, and they both say that they were asleep at the time of her arrival. And Maggie Murdaugh said that she heard the dogs barking outside in what she referred to as an unusual tone. So she goes outside and she finds Gloria Satterfield on her back with her head toward the bottom of the steps, bleeding from a head wound. She also said that the dogs were walking near Gloria Satterfield. So that was her statement of events of what happened. Paul corroborated that in his statements. He also mentioned that Gloria Satterfield, the housekeeper, was airlifted to Trident Hospital. And of course, you know that she later died, as I told you. So they talked to Alex, and Alex's version is Maggie called him and told him what happened. He went to the house, and he even claimed to talk to Gloria Satterfield at that time and that she knew where she was, she knew who he was, but she was obviously not functioning at full capacity. So the investigator at that point, he asked Alex Murdaugh, well, did she tell you what happened to her? And Alex Murdaugh said that she indicated that the dogs caused her to fall and hit her head. So that was the story that they gave in that deposition in 2018. So let's talk about the sons of Gloria Satterfield. And look, these are country people, y'all. They're hardworking country people. They're not people that would be up on the law. They're not people that deal with a whole lot of lawyers. So they have a lot of trust, right? They have a lot of trust in these lawyers that represent them. Alex goes to one of the sons at his mom's funeral of all places, and he says, I'm going to take care of you, etc. And they trusted that because you got to remember their mother worked for Alex Murdaugh for a very long time. And so they followed his lead. And time passed, and I'm talking a lot of time, and they saw no money. And the son of Gloria Satterfield, he would follow up with Alex Murdaugh like once every 3 months or so and say, hey, how's the case going? And Alex wasn't representing him personally. Alex's best friend was representing him, but in his eyes, Alex was representing. He was pulling the strings, right? And he would just delay this son every time he would check in and say, oh, we're still working on it. It's getting closer, etc. Now, what that family didn't realize was that behind the scenes, both of those lawyers had been paid. Now, while Alex was not technically representing them by law, he couldn't. Effectively, he was. I mean, his bestie was representing them. And that pretty much means Alex was representing them. And that's how that family looked at it, to be honest. They didn't communicate with the other lawyer very much. So there were two policies involved. One was from Nautilus Insurance Company, and the other was a smaller policy. If you want to call it a small policy, it was $505,000, but it was from Lloyd's of London. Now, Nautilus, they investigated the claim for a year, and many of the investigators thought something doesn't smell right with that claim, and they would comment on that in the filings. But eventually it goes through mediation, and they end up paying out $3.8 million in a settlement on March 22nd of 2019. And Lloyd's of London, they also paid out the smaller, but like I said, by no means small policy of $505,000. Now, bringing you back to just a little while after the murders of Maggie and Paul, the national media, they pick up on the Satterfield story just like they did the Stephen Smith story. And all that attention leads to the fact that Corey Fleming was paid from the insurance companies. However, The sons of Gloria Satterfield see this and they're like, what the fuck? We have never gotten a dime. At that point, they had never gotten a dime, and now you're into 2021. All that time, and these poor kids of Gloria Satterfield's had not seen one red cent. So what do you think happens? Well, Nautilus Insurance, they must follow breaking news because they see this, which right away they know this has got to be a massive fraud because they did pay it out, but these kids are claiming they never got it. And not only that, but they know that Alex Murdaugh lied about ever being on the property when Gloria Satterfield had fell. They find out he never even talked to her. None of that. And he testified in that deposition that he did. And that was a big part of it. A big part of the reason that they paid out on that policy. So that's a big problem. And they also know there's a problem for them possibly, because if that family was not paid, it could open them up to something. Now, it would not stick in court because they could prove that they paid it and the lawyer was the one in the wrong, but it's still a concern. It's still bad press. So they file suit. And I got that suit here, and I'm going to go over it with you quickly regarding Nautilus versus Alex Murdaugh. And it says, this dispute arises from an incident that occurred on February 2nd, 2018, where Miss Gloria Satterfield, the Murdaugh's family longtime housekeeper, suffered a traumatic brain injury after falling at defendant Alex Murdaugh's Moselle property. Per Murdaugh, Miss Satterfield was tripped by his dogs while collecting a check for work performed for someone else. Miss Satterfield passed away from her injuries on February 26 of 2018, leaving behind two sons. And let me stop right there and tell you why it says she was picking up a check for someone else. Alex Murdaugh came out later on and said, well, I was worried that the kids wouldn't be paid out if I said that she was picking up a check for herself or working on the property during that time. So I made that up because the way my insurance reads, it has to be basically like an innocent bystander, y'all. It can't be someone that works for him or is in the capacity of working when the accident occurred. Something to do with that policy. So I just wanted to explain that quickly. Now we'll move on. Upon Miss Satterfield's passing, Murdaugh offered to assist her sons in making a recovery against him under the Moselle Properties liability policy. Murdaugh arranged for his longtime friend and former law partner Corey Fleming to represent the estate and for vice president of PSB, which is a bank, Chad Westendorf, to serve as the estate's personal representative. Nautilus opened an investigation into the claim in March 20th of 2018. Notwithstanding the hesitations voiced within Nautilus over the course of a year-long investigation, Nautilus settled the Satterfield's estate claim for $3.8 million following a mediation held on March 22nd of 2019. And then they referenced the Nautilus adjuster writing, quote, the Lloyd's adjuster and I believe this claim is very questionable, unquote. But on April 22nd of 2019, Nautilus delivered a settlement check to Fleming made payable to Chad Westendorf as a personal representative of the estate of Gloria Satterfield and Moss, Kuhn and Fleming attorney. In a cover letter, Nautilus requested that Fleming hold the settlement funds in trust until the petition and order approving the settlement had been signed and filed by a probate court in a settlement hearing, and that's common, especially with that amount of money. So they send that check off, etc. Now it says the parties agreed to hold the settlement hearing before circuit court rather than probate court. Only Westendorf and Fleming were present at the hearing before Judge Mullen, as John Grantland, the counsel retained by Nautilus on behalf of Murdaugh, appeared at the wrong courthouse. Oh my gosh. Mullen approved and signed the settlement order in the hearing, but did not file the order at Fleming's request. Following the hearing, Fleming mailed the original signed order to Grantland and contends he believed Grantland would file the order at a later date. Fleming then executed a $2,951,931.95 check made payable to the trust account from Moss and Kuhn at Murdaugh's instruction and delivered the check to Murdaugh. So $3 million basically. Fleming testified he believed Murdaugh had created an account in the name of the Satterfield heirs. And in fact, Murdaugh had opened a personal bank account at Bank of America under the name of Forge, which was a company that he created specifically for this check. It was a fake. It was a shell company, right? A fake company. And the name of it was Forge. How's that for arrogance? He did that on purpose. So he named it Forge to facilitate the theft of the funds. Over the course of the scheme, Fleming dispersed, get this, $3,483,000.41 to that account at Murdaugh's direction. The Satterfield heirs did not receive any of the Nautilus settlement funds. So, as you heard me just tell you, obviously with Corey Fleming involved in this, we don't only have Alex Murdaugh as a total piece of shit, but his bestie, Corey Fleming, also a total piece of shit. And we also have Chad Westerndorf, the guy at the bank that was supposed to be overseeing all this, as a total piece of shit. Now, they all work together to basically fuck over this family whose mother died. It's absolutely disgusting. And I'm going to play a clip for you right now. And this clip is featuring the testimony of Michael Satterfield. He's known as Tony. And he was the oldest son and kind of in charge of speaking for the family. And I'm going to let one thing out of the bag that probably everybody knows by now, and that is that Alex Murdaugh did face criminal charges in the murder of Maggie and Paul. And I have to tell you that because that is where this clip came from. So here it is. And I promise you, when you're done hearing this, you will absolutely hate Alex Murdaugh more than you probably already do, if that's possible. And just a quick note before you listen to this, the first attorney you hear, that's going to be the prosecutor. And then he is followed up by the defense attorney.
My name is Michael Satterfield. My last name is spelled Satterfield.
Mr. Satterfield, how you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Tell the jury just a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up, and what do you do for a living?
I grew up in Hampton, live in Beaufort, and I work at Beaufort Memorial Hospital.
Okay. Awesome. And court reporter's taking stuff down there. I'm really known for talking fast too, but let's slow it down so they can get everything down. You grew up in Hampton, you said?
Yes.
And you said where'd you work?
Beaufort Memorial.
Okay. And what do you do there?
Work in the ER.
How long have you been working there?
A little over 5 years.
Okay. And where did you work anywhere prior to that?
I did.
And where'd you work?
The pharmacy.
Pharmacy. Okay. Who's your mom?
Gloria Satterfield.
Gloria Satterfield. And is your mom still with us?
She's not.
And when did she pass?
February 26, 2018.
And do you have a sibling?
I do.
And what's his name?
Brian.
Where'd your mom pass?
In the hospital.
Did something happen to her?
Yes.
Tell the jury what happened to her.
She had a trip and fall.
And where did that occur?
I'm not sure the exact date that occurred.
But where?
I'm sorry. At Moselle in Colleton County.
Okay. Was she working for the Murdaugh family?
She was.
And what did she do for them?
She was their housekeeper, babysat for them and anything else they needed.
Babysat, whatever they needed?
Yes.
Housekeeper? How long did she work for them?
A little over 20 years. I'm not sure the exact amount.
20 years. During that time, did you get to know the Murdaugh family?
I did.
Did you get to know the defendant, Alex Murdaugh?
I did.
Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you point him out to the for the jury? Can the record reflect he's identified the defendant? Your mom worked for this family for 20 years, babysitting. She helped raise the children.
Yes.
Did you get to know Maggie?
A little bit, yes.
Did you get to know Paul or Buster at all?
A little bit, yes.
And you got to know Alec? Right?
Yes.
You said your mom had a trip and fall at Moselle at their property?
Yes.
And she go to the hospital?
Yes.
Was she ever able to tell you how she tripped or anything like that?
No.
How long was she in the hospital before she passed away?
Give and take 4 or 5 weeks, somewhere up in there.
After she passed away, did you, was there a funeral?
Yes.
And after the funeral, did people go to somebody's house and visit like people do?
Yes.
At any point in time during that funeral or thereabouts, did you have a conversation with the defendant over there?
Yes.
And what?
I'm objecting to questions by Mr. Water that respond with a yes or a no. Those are typically leading questions. Not that I'm concerned about these questions, I just don't want my lack of objection to lead to somebody's belief that he can ask questions that respond with a yes or a no.
Mr. Waters?
I think my question did not suggest the answer. It said, did you have a conversation? And my next question was, what was that conversation?
If I remember correctly, I'm going to kind of take care of you boys and kind of, you know.
He's going to do what? I'm sorry?
Take care of you boys.
All right. Did he say how he was going to do that?
Partially, yes.
And what did he say?
He was going to file a claim against his insurance company.
He's going to what?
File a claim against his insurance company.
His insurance company?
Yes.
Did he say how much coverage there was?
Like $505,000, I believe.
$505,000?
Yes.
And did he say anything about how much money you may receive?
The goal was to get me and my brother Brian at least $100,000 apiece.
And did any other bills need to be taken care of?
The medical bills.
For who?
My mom.
When he told you that, did you agree to do that?
Yes.
Did you view the defendant as your lawyer?
Yes.
Did you go and meet with him about it?
Yes.
Did he tell you about what to do with any paperwork you may receive?
Any paperwork or bills or anything, just send them to him.
Did you agree to let the defendant go forward with this claim?
Yes.
And I'd asked you whether or not what he told you to do about paperwork, and I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 372 to your testimony. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Tell the jury what that is, please.
This is a cover sheet that I sent him with, I believe behind it was like a hospital bill and some kind of other important paperwork.
Okay. So you had received some paperwork in the mail?
Yes.
And did you handwrite this?
I did.
All right. And who did you send this to?
Alex Murdaugh.
And tell the jury quickly what this is about. Can you see it on the screen? I can bring it back to you if you need.
Okay. So this is a cover sheet that I attached to the documents that I sent Alex.
Okay. And what kind of documents? Do you remember what kind they were?
One was a hospital bill and one was from the trailer company, I believe. I don't recall exactly what it was.
The trailer company for who?
My mom.
For your mom. And the hospital bill for who?
Yes, my mom.
Your mom? Okay. And you sent these to him because they were relevant to the case?
Yes.
At any point in time, did you, as this case was developing, did you go and meet with the defendant at his office?
Yes.
Did he have any paperwork for you?
Yes.
Did he get you to sign some paperwork?
Yes.
Did you become the personal representative of your mom's estate?
I did.
And who gave you the paperwork to sign for that?
Alex.
when you signed that paperwork, were you aware that there had already been a...
Your Honor. Leading.
Can't lead the witness.
I'll rephrase. At some point in time, did Alex say he wanted to involve another lawyer?
Yes.
And who was that?
Corey Fleming.
And what did he tell you about that?
If I understood it correctly, I'm going to send you to Corey Fleming, my friend, because I can't do it against, do the claim against myself because it would be a conflict of interest. That's how I understood it.
And did you ultimately meet with Corey Fleming?
Yes.
How many times did you meet with him?
If I recall correctly, maybe once or twice.
Over the course of this case, if you had a question, who would you call?
Alex.
At some point, did the defendant, Alec, have a conversation with you about letting someone else be PR?
Yes.
And what was that conversation?
That I should let somebody else be PR because based on he's a businessman and it would be hard for the insurance to go up against somebody like that.
Okay. And who told you that?
Alex.
And what did you say to that?
Yes.
All right. And did somebody else get involved at this point?
Yes.
And who was that?
The PR, Chad Wessendorf.
At that point in time, did you sign any paperwork for him to become PR? Chad?
I did.
All right. And who brought you that paperwork?
I believe I signed it at Alex's office or either I went to the bank. I can't recall.
And at that point in time, were you aware of any recovery in the case?
No.
Did Alec tell you there had been a recovery of $505,000 already in the case at that time?
No.
Did he ever tell you there had been a recovery of $505,000 at that time?
No.
Was there a recovery at that time of $505,000 as you come to find out?
Later on.
Later on you found out?
Yes.
And did he ever pay you one dime?
No.
Who was the PR that the defendant talked to you about appointing instead of you?
Chad Wessendorf.
Did you ever meet with him?
Yes, like once or twice.
Did he ever tell you about a $505,000 settlement that already had occurred?
No.
Did the defendant ever tell you that he also had a $5 million umbrella policy?
No.
Did he ever tell you that there had been a recovery against that?
No.
Did he ever tell you that there had been a recovery for $3.8 million against that?
No.
Did he ever pay you one penny of $3.8 million?
No.
As the months went on and moving into the early part of June 2021, would you periodically have conversations with Alec about the case?
Yes.
How often do you think he would talk to Alec?
Every 3 to 4 months, give and take.
And you recall what Alec would tell you about the case?
Yes. First it started off, the hard case, and then it was making progress.
Say that again.
At first it started off as it was going to be a hard case, and then it turned into we're making progress.
You're making progress?
Yes.
And what had the defendant told you about the most that you could recover? What did he tell you at least?
Nothing.
Do you recognize that's on the screen right now?
Yes.
And who is that text from?
Alex.
And who is it to?
Me.
And can you read to the jury what that text says?
It says, "Hey man, just checking in, been working on case and made me think about you. Hope all is good. Call me anytime I can help."
And what was the date of that text?
April 12, 2021 at 12:47.
All right. I'm going to go to this next one. Do you recognize that text?
Yes.
And who is that from?
That is from me to Alex responding to his text.
All right. And read that text to the jury once you sent.
That text says, "Hey man, I'm doing good. By the way, how's the case going? Just curious. But how are you?"
I'll show you this next text. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And who is that from?
That is from Alex to me.
All right. And can you read that to the jury?
"Finally getting some movement. Still a ways to go. Doing good. Was just thinking about and thought I'd check in. Hope to see you soon."
Still a ways to go is what he said?
Yes.
At that point in time, did he tell you there had already been 2 recoveries in the case?
No.
Going to this last text, what is that? Who is that from?
That is from me back to Alex responding to his text.
All right. And what does it say?
Cool, thanks.
Around this point in time, So we're in the late spring of 2021. Had you become aware of any media reporting about there actually being a settlement in your mother's case?
Yes, somebody sent me a text or something saying a legal document, but I can't remember who sent it to me.
All right. And you can't remember who sent it to you?
Yes, that's correct.
Did that cause you to reach out to the defendant and ask the status of the case?
Yes.
And do you remember roughly when that was?
I believe in June.
Okay. And do you remember if that was before or after the murders in this particular case?
I believe that was after.
Okay. And have you seen some records since the previous time in talking about this?
Previous to the call, no.
Would you periodically reach out to the defendant and get updates about the case?
Yes.
And you had family reach out and ask you to get updates because of reading things in the media, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you had conversations with him in June of 2021?
Yes.
How often would you talk to the defendant?
3 to 4 times a year or something, I believe. I can't recall. Every few months.
Would you talk by phone or would you talk by text or both?
Both.
And when you would talk to him, would you ask about the status of your case?
Yes.
And each time you talked to him, what did he say?
It was making progress.
Making progress. Did he say it was a hard case or not?
Yes.
Did he ever tell you about how much money he might be able to get for you?
The goal was to get $100,000 apiece for me and my brother.
At any time over the years, did he ever tell you that there had already been a recovery in the case?
No.
At any time over the years, did he mention anything about having a $5 million umbrella policy?
No.
At any time, did he ever pay you 1 penny?
No.
You testified earlier that you became the personal representative, is that right?
That is correct.
Why were you the personal representative and not your brother?
Because my brother is a vulnerable adult, meaning he has a disability. That my brother, he's a vulnerable adult, so he's not able to function as a normal human being to be doing stuff like that.
He's a vulnerable adult?
Yes.
After the murders happened, at some point after that, did you go seek, or did you and your family go seek additional representation about this matter?
Yes.
And who did y'all eventually go to?
My aunt and my uncle went to Mark Tinsley, and then they sent us to Eric Bland.
Are you aware of there being a confession of judgment in your case against the defendant for those missing recoveries?
Yes.
And you're aware there's a confession of judgment in that case?
Yes.
Did you have to file a claim against the defendant for those 2 recoveries you never got for your mom's case?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you 352. You're not a lawyer, are you?
No.
And have you read all that legal stuff in there?
Yes.
All right. But this has been something that you're aware of that occurred in your case, is that correct?
That is correct.
And ultimately, there's a confession of judgment in the case. Do you know how much it is right there?
$4,305,000.
All right. And is that for $3.8 million for one of them?
Yes.
And for $505,000 for the other recovery?
Yes.
When the defendant came to you around the time of your mom's funeral and said he was going to help you and file a claim on your behalf, why did you agree to that?
Because I trusted him.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Your name is Tony?
Yes, sir.
May I call you Tony rather than Mr. Satterfield?
Absolutely.
You call me Dick instead of Mr. Harpillion, and then we'll make this a little quicker. Between your name and my name, it might add a little bit to this clause. So let me ask you a few questions about your mother's death, and I apologize if in any way this brings back bad memories. I apologize. Y'all filed a lawsuit or made a claim against, basically Al told you he would be the defendant. You'd be suing him, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it was based on some dogs tripping your mom as she was going down the stairs. Is that right?
That's what they said, yes.
Okay. But the only person that represented dogs tripped your mother going down the stairs was Alex, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, without his assertion, I mean, if she just fell down the stairs, there'd be no lawsuit, right?
I guess that's correct.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're not a lawyer. You would accept my representations if she just fell down the stairs on her own. There would be no one to blame for that. Right?
All right. Repeat the question because I don't understand the question.
It's okay. Strike it. Withdraw it. It's going down a rabbit hole. Don't need to do that. So let me ask you this. During this process, your lawyer, for the record, he told you, was Corey Fleming, right?
Yes.
And that was your lawyer?
Well, it was Alex Murdaugh. They were all a team.
They were a team. The person being sued, and
yes.
Again, you're not sophisticated on this, was part of the team to get you a recovery.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's a guy named Chad Westendorf. He was with a bank, right?
Yes.
And he was actually the PR. He took over, and it was his job to make sure y'all got your money, right?
Yes.
Did you ever meet with him?
Yes.
And what did he say?
Like one time, it was just to sign some paperwork for him to be PR.
Right. And did you ever call him and say, what's going on with my case?
No.
Did you ever call Corey Fleming and ask what's going on with my case?
No.
And let me make sure I understand your testimony. You got some notice of something in the paper, and at some point after June 7th, you had either a phone call or a text or an email with Alex Murdaugh asking him what's going on, right?
Yes.
Now, and again, we see a series of phone calls on June 22nd.
Yes.
Yes. Is that right? Where y'all were talking about this.
Yes.
But was there anything on June 7th or prior to June 7th where you accused him of anything?
Prior to June 7th? No.
Okay. Now, after you became aware of well, we saw just a moment ago a confession of judgment where Alex Murdaugh admitted that he owed you $3 million. Not get this wrong. Where's the confession of judgment? There it is. $4,305,000. Is that right?
That's the judgment. Yes.
Okay. But you hired a lawyer, Eric Bland, very fine lawyer, and he actually sued Mr. Murdaugh's firm and some other folks and got you $6.5 million, right?
Yes. Or no, not that I'm aware of.
Pardon me?
Not that I'm aware of. The only thing I'm aware of is the judgment.
So Mr. Bland didn't tell you about the $6.5 million?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure history's not repeating itself here. And so you actually recovered $6.5 million, which would be a couple $1 million more than you would have gotten had you received the money that Alex took, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you've been made more than whole for that loss.
Yes.
$2 million more than you would have gotten had he not taken your money, right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Well, one last question is this. On June 7th, prior to June 8th, had you ever threatened Alex Murdaugh with exposure?
All right, could you repeat the question again?
Prior to June 8th, 2021, did you ever threaten Alex Murdaugh saying, I know you stole my money, where's my money? You know, I know you've got the money. Did you threaten him in any way?
No.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
These were texts that you had about the case, is that right?
Yes.
And when did those occur?
These occurred in the spring and April of 2021.
April of 2021. And there had been media reporting about there being a settlement in this particular case, even though you hadn't received any money?
Yes.
Did you have periodic conversations with the defendant over the course of time?
Yes.
And would you ask him about the case?
Yes.
And he would tell you what?
It's a hard case, but it's a work in progress.
After all this happened, have you come to find out that the defendant took all of your money?
Yes.
And that's what led to that confession of judgment?
Yes.
Did he, though, ever pay you 1 cent?
No.
You were asked about Corey Fleming, and I think you said they were all a team. Is that right?
Yes.
At its core, who did you consider was your lawyer for your mom's case?
Alex.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman.
So what was Alex Murdaugh's reasoning for lying about being at the Moselle property and speaking to Gloria Satterfield? Well, according to Alex, again, he's wanting to make sure they got the insurance money, and he knew if he said he was there and that Gloria Satterfield actually told him that she tripped over a bunch of dogs, that he knew those boys would be paid. That's his story, right? Well, we know that's bullshit. He did get a check and he still didn't pay him anything. Now, of course, considering everything that has transpired since that fall, the question on most people's minds are, what happened to Gloria? And there were a lot of people that thought Paul may have killed her due to his bad temper. And I'm going to say that her fall, in my opinion, was completely legit. I don't believe she tripped over dogs. I think she just tripped over the steps and hit her head. No one will ever know for sure. Both Paul and Maggie are dead, and they were the only two at the house, and they were both sleeping, apparently, when it happened. And Alex Murdaugh, he actually did have an alibi that they found out. They had people that saw him at work that day during that time. So we know he didn't do it. And it was also well known that Paul absolutely loved Gloria Satterfield, and he considered her like a second mother to him. Even her son's attorney says that. So I just think Alex Murdaugh saw this as an opportunity to get a lot of money and steal it from these people and keep it for himself. It's so sick. And I want to read you this before we close out this episode. And this was at the Alex Murdaugh trial. And prior to the sentencing, they allow families of victims, or victims sometimes if they're still alive, to read what's known as a victim impact statement. And Gloria Satterfield's sister, Ginger Hadwin, said this at Alex Murdaugh's sentencing. She said, "Gloria worked very hard for you. For 20 years, she loved Buster and Paul as her own. She loved Maggie, and she trusted you wholeheartedly, and you betrayed her. I will never understand how you were able to profit from her death. We will never be able to understand that." Then she turned and she looked Murdaugh right in the eyes, y'all, and she said, "Do you have a soul? I don't understand it, but I thank God I don't understand it, because maybe I would be in the same position as you." And there you have it. And things are just heating up for Murdaugh. We're going to bring you back in the next episode to just a short time after the double murders at Moselle of Maggie and Paul, and we're going to work straight through in chronological order. Please continue to leave those reviews if you're enjoying the show. They help more than you'll ever realize. And check us out on Patreon for a ton of extras. And until next time, for Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.